This call is being recorded.
Well, hello, everybody all around the world on this last day. Well, it is the last day for me anyway, of 2020. You guys are coming up to your last day soon, but I'm in everyone's future, so I'm a bit ahead of you guys.
Right.
So I just say hello for the last time in 2020, and so hello to Will, Bill, and Phil. Hi, guys.
Hi, Callista.
Hello, Miss. Hi, Callista.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Now, we were just having a bit of a conversation earlier on, and then we decided that we would record it. So we're going back over what has already been said. But before we go into that, I just want to invite Will to just explain a little bit about his phone.
Yeah, I've heard recently that despite all efforts, there's still a muffled sound. My voice is muffled. It should be crystal clear because I got those AirPods, and it seems to make a difference when I do private readings or private conversations. But for some reason, it is still coming across muffled, and I think that's more the fault of the phone itself, which I'll be replacing shortly. But my apologies for my more muffled sound. I do have a strong voice, so it's intriguing to me that that's been happening, but my apologies all around on that one.
No worries. Thanks, Will. We look forward to you getting your new machine. But Phil, you were mentioning some information that you were talking about concerning the actual birth time of that one we know as Jesus. Do you want to start that conversation again so we can share it with the listeners?
I'll try and summarize. I've been on the move so long for the past 14 years that my books, my libraries, my information, it's scattered everywhere, and I have to go by memory. But there was a time in my own study where I wanted to understand the truth of where all of the facts that we assume to be true in Western society, where they come from. Because I was at a point back then of doubting everything, because I realized everything I've been taught is a lie or a half truth. And part of my study had to do with religion. So I remember way back around 2000, I was reading a book on the bloodline of Jesus by an author that many of our listeners probably remember as Lawrence Gardner. He's now passed away, and he supposedly was in possession of the genealogical records of the houses of Europe all the way back to antiquity. And he wrote a book on the bloodline of Jesus, and also the Genesis, the beginnings of the lineage that led to what we call the Grail Kings. And I liked that book because it was very heavily researched and footnoted. So he didn't just make claims; he backed them up with his source material. Now, just to be clear, David Icke was arch enemies, it seems, with Lawrence Gardner. And he felt that Lawrence Gardner was proof positive that he was a spokesperson for the reptilian bloodline. So I'll leave it to the listener and also myself, because I'm just speculating as to what the truth is. But it seemed at the time very plausible to me, given the case that he put forth in his book on the bloodline of the Holy Grail, on the actual time of Jesus's birth. And if I remember correctly from Lawrence Gardner's book, he talked about the in Jewish tradition, you had certain classes of people, and they had to rule themselves by certain lines of what's the word I'm looking for, Callista? The different segments of Jewish society at that time had to operate according to certain rules.
Customs.
And in the line, and in Jesus's case, and in Mary's case, who became his wife, Mary Magdalene, there were customs that they had to abide by according to Jewish law. And part of that had to do with the time at which it was permissible for people in that class and in that hierarchy to conceive. And based on that, at that time, he was putting forth that according to that custom at that time, the real and actual birth time of Jesus would have occurred at a time, and it was not December 25th. It's what we celebrate now, but I think most people know that modern Christianity is an amalgamation of the Roman Church and also more pagan Northern European traditions, where they were trying to blend the two together. But the point is that December 25th, back in antiquity, was not the birthday of Jesus. And recently, there was a very popular video cast by Juan O'Savin, where he talked about 9/11, September 11th, in other words, as being a significant date in not only numerology, but in Kabbalah numerology. And it had to do with Jesus and the birth time of Jesus. Now, when you figure that the average gestation of a human being, a human baby, is 9 months, you go back in time to where you are in the Jewish calendar, 9 months, and you're at the time of Hanukkah. So he was making that correlation recently in a podcast that anyone can go online, and it was in the past week, so you'll have no problem finding it. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that we're in the holiday period right now. We're at Christmas time. We're thinking of Jesus. We're thinking of the return of the sun going higher. You know, it's a very positive time if you think about it, because we're at the nadir of human experience right now, and the days are starting to get longer. The sun is staying up longer. The symbolism of the 3 days of darkness, and then the sun starts to arrive. So when you think about the actual history of things versus what we're taught, and the symbolism and the numerology behind that, it becomes a very interesting study about what the power structure behind the modern world actually knew versus what you and I and everyone who's listening are actually taught. So I don't have the exact dates about Jesus's birth date, but most people agree. I think you guys, the three of us, know that it was not exactly December 25th. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. And we started the recording before I could finish my thought, but that's all I really wanted to say. And I think it's really timely, especially when people right now are trying to discern truth from falsehood and history from true history, and what's being told to us by our authority figures and our government and the mainstream media, which is really at the crux of all of these chats that we have. And that's all. That's all.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Phil, because just lately I've been looking at some information that I just happened to come across the other night, really late, and I stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning looking at it all. But it's a very interesting YouTube channel called Exploring Tartaria. And that's the name of the channel, Exploring Tartaria. And if you're interested in eschatology, this will be right up your alley. Eschatology, of course, is the study of the end times. And in those quite short videos that this woman has put out, she is talking about the false history, and especially the false timeline that we've been given. And yes, I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to go into any discussion of that at the moment, because it's quite controversial, especially for some aspects of the religious community. But virtually what she's saying is, in a nutshell, that the 1,000 years that we had from the resurrection right through is actually the messianic millennium, where you had all these wonderful things happening, which, according to the book of Revelation, was the 1,000 years of peace. And then after the 1,000 years of peace, you were going to have the situation where the satanic forces would have the rule of the world for about a short time, which is probably 150 to 200 years. And so if you're looking at that, you can realize that we now have come to the end of that short time. That's where we're at. The 1,000 years of peace was during the Tartarian times. and then we came into in around 1850 or 850 in 1820. Oh, sorry, 1820 or 820 in real time, because 1,000 years has been added on, which isn't actually there. And that's when you see the start of the wars and the nations being pitted against each other, and the situation where we find ourselves today. And for me, it was really interesting to note that she says that the end of this time of satanic activity is actually the end of 2020 in the timeline. So it's a really interesting thing. I just urge everyone who's interested in eschatology to go into that YouTube channel, Exploring Tartaria, and just have a look at it. And I'm just bringing it up as a point of interest. It was very interesting for me. I don't agree entirely with her theology, but the eschatology looks really good from my point of view, but I have to do a lot more research on that. So thanks for bringing that up, Phil. That was really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And controversy certainly is the key word here, especially if you introduce the controversy of the eclipse timeline and the Tartarian Empire, which most people have never heard of. And there's some evidence that they did exist. There's association with the giants spread around the world. It's very, very fascinating, but very challenging. As to the controversy of the actual time of Jesus' birth, well, I've heard three different times offered. One was sometime in April, one is sometime in August, and now tonight, Phil, you shared because of that Jewish, would it be a rites of passage to conceive at a certain time? I don't know. But the concept that maybe conception took place in the latter part of the year and that birth happened in September then, that's interesting too. But it is my understanding that the whole thing about Christmas, the birth of the illuminated one, the Messiah, being on the 25th of December had more to do with the solstice energies and the pagan concepts of the light returning back to the earth in that time of darkness, which it does. And, that's what the winter solstice is all about up here in the north, and that the days get longer because the light is streamed on, and that whole cycle is flip-flopped, so it's returning back to the summer, longest day, all that. And also that, there's a lot that the early Christian church, which came from the Judaic people and the following, is of a nature that it included the Celtic Christians. There was a group known as the Celtic Christians who based their teachings on pagan tradition, but that was finally absorbed into the main body of the church, and the Celtic church itself, the Celtic Catholics, kind of drifted out of history, and what we're left with is this date, the December 25th date of the birth of Jesus, that most people hold as sacrosanct and without any exception to the rule. That's when he was born. And we're not trying to challenge anyone in any of that. It's just that things are a little bit more pliable than it would seem they are if you just hold steadfast that Jesus was born on the 25th. And if you can maybe be flexible of that, understand the one we know as Jesus did not actually appear till about 300 something AD in the textbooks and everything, and that had a lot to do with the island of Nicaea, the Council of Nicaea, and the creation of a state religion. But that's all part of what could be researched by everyone. But I think the most important point of this time is that this is a time where most of us celebrate peace and love and wish it to one another freely, peace be with you, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, these traditions like Hanukkah and the Hindu celebration of Diwali, our own Christmas if you're Christian, they're all part of an illumination of the mind and of the heart that I think is the real significance of this time, despite whatever the year was when Jesus was born, or whether the timeline is 1,000 years short, as the Tartarian information would suggest. it's still a very significant time in our year. And right now, this year, 2020, after the year we've had, I think we really need to celebrate the lights coming back into the darkness. So that's what I wanted to throw in. Bill, your thoughts?
Well, I just hope I live long enough for the history of this planet and the human race, or the Earth human race, to be revealed to us, because I think there's a lot of it that we've been taught that is just totally incorrect.
Mm.
I agree.
Well, hey,
And to top, I just want to finish. I think there are people alive on Earth right now, or organizations who, for antiquity, have known the actual history of the human race and beyond, that is closely safeguarded. And the average people, like you and me, we don't know anything about that because we were told the history through approved science, approved religion, approved educational systems. But I do think that there is an accurate version of human history that can be taught and could be taught or revealed that is very close to the truth, because I think it has been known all along among certain groups. And I just wanted to say that I hope Bill is right. I hope there is going to be a disclosure more about our own origins than about the existence of a bacteria on Mars or Venus, or about upright bipedal humanoids that live on other planets. I think people who live here need to know about the nature of their own beingness and who and what they are, because that alone would provide a reset in belief systems that would transcend all dogma. That's all I wanted to say.
yeah, that
I
I
think it
agree.
will. I think it'll likely extraterrestrials who will say, "Oh, by the way, here's an outline of your history as the way it actually happens."
Yeah, maybe. I was just thinking though, what if Jesus was actually a jar baby?
A jar baby, as in artificial conception and all that?
Hmm. After all, the three
Mm.
wise men were obviously extraterrestrials.
Yeah, in fact, Tarot by Janine, she just did some reading on exactly that they may have been extraterrestrial beings who were following not a star at all, but it could have been the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, or more, even more than that. So that's speculation that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, especially when you look at the nativity scene that the Vatican put out this year. It seems to me that they're trying to say something, you know.
They looked like extraterrestrials, especially the three wise men, didn't they?
Yeah. And the Vatican have got all the records. That's, you know, they've got 15 kilometres of library or something underneath the Vatican.
Everything.
So, yeah, so they know. And it's about time we got to know as well, once all this stupid nonsense gets sorted out. Yes.
Well, allegedly, when the Library of Alexandria burnt, a lot of the manuscripts and rolls were saved and taken to Rome and are part of that very same library even now. So there's got to be historical documents in there that predate Jesus and all of that might be very interesting if ever revealed.
I believe that 100%. And further, I've been told that there are monks that spend their entire lives in the Vatican Library, highly educated, highly specifically educated, that all they do their whole lives is spend their time translating the manuscripts that are there. Makes you wonder how much knowledge is there and how many world libraries. We all hear about the Library of Alexandria, and we thought all knowledge died with that. But that was in the West. There's knowledge in the East. There's knowledge in the Western Hemisphere. has all knowledge truly been annihilated and encapsulated by the church to put in little vaults? I'm not so sure, but to the extent that the Vatican Library is still an operational thing, what I was told was that there are those individuals that are just average. They walk by, they look like an average priest, but they're going to their 8-hour shift in a library to continue a work that spans their whole life about translating all of what they have. So they must have vast amounts. And they also, on some level, must be trying to synchronize, if that's the right word. I can't remember the right word, but you have so many different manuscripts from different languages and traditions, different time periods. Wisdom ultimately is the same, but it's said in different ways through different periods of time and different traditions. And there must be a way of synthesizing, that's the word, all of this into a body of knowledge that actually is timeless and that works. And what's hideous to me is to have an organization like the Vatican, as corrupt as it is, being the repository of all this that has been stolen over the centuries. And yet they're involved in what they're doing today, which is deception, graft, corruption, everything that they supposedly teach against. And this is upsetting to people because they've built their entire cultures on the power of the church. And I think one of the things that's going to come forward this year and next year and maybe the next 4 years is going to be the gentle revelation of how everything we've ever been taught is a half-truth or a lie, which is what caused me, as I've told you guys before, to wake up. But imagine the average person. It's going to be a heavy-duty time, so we might get, for example, Trump reelected in a couple of weeks, but that's just when the work begins, because you have to rewire people's and culture's hardwiring in their brain for a system of history that was false from the beginning. That's a heavy duty thing for a population to undergo.
Yeah,
But
it is, and
what if
it's
it doesn't come out that way? Sorry, Callista. I was just saying, what if it doesn't come out that way? What if it is exploded into people's consciousness and is brought out so dramatically that, yes, people will be shocked, but they'll be able to adjust quickly enough to it, because a lot of us kind of have this deep feeling of this isn't right information anyway. So I disagree that it's going to be released over 4 or 5 years. I think it might come in all at once, be an absolute shock to the system, and then let everything recalibrate and readjust and move on.
I don't know. It's a really complex thing, really. We've been gaslighted for so long. I just look at just one example, for instance. I studied theology for about 10 years or so, many years ago when I was a lot younger. And then I got rid of every Bible that I had. I got rid of the whole lot because I realized that the translations were so incorrect, and that they were just not accurate. And then just before Christmas, I decided I'd get myself a Bible again. I got the 1611 version, which is printed by the Oxford University Press. And it's all in the oldie English language, and it contains the Apocrypha as well. But that is the closest you're going to get to the truth in the English language as to what the Bible really is and what it really did say. And since 1611, you've had all these different translations that have come through, and there are thousands of them now. And the meaning of things has changed so much, especially in relation to the translation of the New Testament, which was originally in Greek anyway. And it's been changed so that the meaning, the actual original meaning of the words is quite different. And people don't know that. They think, oh, the Bible's the Bible. They'll just pick it up and they'll just take whatever. Oh, yes, we must believe the Bible, but it's not the original thing that it used to be. And that's just one instance of how people have been swayed in their belief system. And so I think that it is going to take a while. I think it's going to take a few generations. I don't know. It may not. When we're entering into a new energy, maybe it will just, wipe everyone's brain of all the falsehoods, and the truth will come out and we won't be traumatized by it. I don't know. We're certainly in a different energy. I feel the last few days that every day is Sunday and I don't know where I am really. I feel like I'm in a bubble of some sort. It's just,
Right.
it's a feeling of unreality and just not like it was. Not like
You're
it
not the
was
only
even
one.
a month ago, And
It's
I
true.
guess, in this chat today, we're talking about esoterical things, I suppose, but I think it's all quite relevant because we're going to have to really knuckle down and look at belief systems soon, and look at, okay, what do I believe and what do you believe and what is the truth? And I really think, as far as theology goes, everyone's got their own personal theology. But ultimately, the history is the history, and the truth is the truth. And at some point, we're going to have to look at that really seriously. But anyway, I ramble on. Please.
Not really. I want to agree entirely before Bill and Will say something. That's the essence of these chats that we've had. Yes, we talk about external political events, but they all have a spiritual origin that is based on exactly what you have just said. And that comes down to, why do humans believe what they believe? Why do people assume truth is truth? How do you discern truth from falsehood? Unless you understand the history, the hidden history, not what our textbooks in school around the world told us is history, but unless you understand the actual history and the chain of events that led to why societies are the way they are today, you can't even begin to understand the dramas that are playing out in the newspaper every day. But once you do, you can read the headlines and you know exactly what's going down as a cause and effect relationship all the way back to these ancient battles that have been taking place for a long time. Cosmic awareness has talked about it. The alternative media is getting more and more increasingly vocal about it. All four of us in our independent studies know this. And so we can adapt, I think, if these disclosures come fairly quick. I was more concerned about those people who look at their traditional little communities and their pods that have happened generation after generation, where there's safety and comfort there. And all of a sudden they're finding out that everything they thought was sacred and true and divinely protected turned out to be a half truth or a lie. And how does a person recover from that? We've had 20, 30 years in our studies to overcome that aha moment when we freaked out. I know I had mine. Bill had his around 1987. Everyone has their story, but imagine a whole population being given information all at once from official sources that contradicts the narrative that they've been taught in public school, TV, that whole thing. I think that's worth noting because we're a population now of 9 billion people that fairly soon is going to be confronted with the fact that everything we assumed, and that's the key word, assumed to be true, was not. And then the question is, well, what is true? And how do we know truth from falsehood? And this gets into the connection between the wisdom of the heart and the intuition and the ego and the brain and assimilating information from the five senses. And recently I had a session with Cosmic Awareness, and let me know I still got a lot of work to do there. I'm still buying into very deep-seated programs that we all have been subjected to. So no one is alone here. We're all in this together. But it is a huge opportunity and challenge for the population right now as disclosures come out to be done at a pace at which people can actually comprehend and assimilate without having everything fall apart. And I know people have different ideas about how quickly that should undergo, but I happen to agree with you, Callista, that It's going to be a very delicate situation as people go forward, but yet it is the time for humanity to actually, face the music of their own history and their own ability to overcome what they thought was the truth.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I also question the so-called population of the planet. Do we really think it's that much? I don't think that there's as many people on this planet as we're told, quite honestly. But that's just me.
Yeah, whether it's 9 billion or 8 billion or 7.5 billion, it's hard to say, but there's a lot of people. But I think we underestimate the capacity of humans to adjust very quickly to new situations, a new status quo, especially as these are the times, as I understand it, where a great war is raging between that which you would call the white hatters, the light workers, versus the dark hatters, the cabal, the dark cabal, whatever you want to call it. There is a real battle. Now, what if it isn't just about the fact that suddenly the premises we've held all our lives, the programs that we've been indoctrinated to, what if it's not simply about challenging that, but the collapse of those ones who have served the dark side of things? What if that whole thing that is raging right now between Biden and Trump as to who's the legitimate president is actually these two forces, the light ones, the dark ones, who are in a war? And most of humanity doesn't understand it. They're hunkered down because of COVID restrictions and lockdowns and all that. But what if, when it all explodes and there's revelations made about the events that occurred around the election, for an example, break, and people are informed and people finally see, wait a minute, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Would they not quickly adjust to the truth that's presented? I think they would. And maybe that's then in line with what could occur when all the deceptions, frauds, lies, deceits are revealed to humanity, not maybe all at once, but big portions of it, so that it rocks humanity, but they rock back and they say, I didn't know that. Tell me more. Don't forget, often truth is perceived not by hearing it, but by feeling it. And it's when you have that gut feeling that this is the truth, this makes sense to me at some fundamental level, that people shift. And maybe the mass event that's happening right now, the Great Awakening, is that shift in consciousness that will allow people to absorb the truth and have the gut feeling, this feels right, tell me more.
Well, thank you, Will. You were going in the direction that I was thinking about. We've been discussing, what will it be like when people get exposed to the truth of our history? But we're basing that on what we know of history, which is not perfect, and basing it on the current vibrational level, which is high third dimensional. What's going to happen as we move into the vibrational level of fourth dimension and move toward fifth dimension? How is that going to affect how people react to new data?
Yes.
So it may be very much like you were saying, Will, that they go on the gut feeling and they hear this new information and they say, I know that's right. All this other garbage I've been told is incorrect. And that's that.
And each has the right to accept or deny, to go with it or not to go with it. It will establish the kind of timelines they will follow, because their soul still needs to have certain lessons that maybe going down a dark timeline would offer them. I will never judge anyone on that kind of thing, because I can't say I know what their soul needs or what is required for them to learn and absorb. But what if we have a greater capacity to deal with the truth once it's felt, once it's perceived, once it's brought forward and declared? Then we give credit to humanity for having in the first place, that we assume, oh no, they'll need lots of time to assimilate this. Well, from what I understand, certain resets have happened in the planet's history, on this planet, and they are staggering. If you want to know more, go to the Tartaria information and the Hyperborea and other things like that, because it will rock you as to what our history may really be versus that reset history that we're given and programmed to believe, so that everything we are told now about 2,000 years since Jesus was born and all that's happened historically, it's like it just doesn't fit anymore. And there
That's
is
right.
a challenge there. Pardon me?
That's right.
Yeah. And I know Callista has hit me with some of that stuff in the past, and it is challenging for me. Absolutely. Could this be so? Could our history be quite different than what we're told it is? And if that's part of the truth too, well, that will be coming out as well.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, Will, that you're right and that people are going to get the information, sort of quickly, and that there will be a change of heart and mind on this planet, because time is running out, and that's the bottom line. Time is running out. And talking about time running out, we're getting very close to the 6th of January, which is, it seems to be a very pivotal date, especially for the United States, but the whole world, really, when you look at the whole situation. And this is a day when the president has asked his people to go to DC and be present for whatever reason. Apparently he's going to be addressing the people who assemble there. And it's a time for the vice president to step up to the plate. And I don't fully understand all the ramifications of that, but I'm going to ask Bill, with a B, Bravo, if he will bravely step forward and give us some sort of summary as to what we can expect.
Well, the short version, if we look at it as the way we want to see it, is that the vice president will take the votes from the electors, and he'll have some states that offer a dual slate of votes from both Republican and Democratic electors. And he'll just throw up his hands and he'll say, this whole thing is messed up. We can't deal with this. We're going to have to do it the constitutional way, which is to have the House of Representatives vote, one vote per state to elect the president, and have the Senate vote, one vote per senator to elect the vice president. And that's the way we're going to do it. That would be the easy way. It may not work that way. It may work a more difficult way, but I am absolutely concerned that one way or another, January 6th, rather, is going to be a day for reboot. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Bill. That's a really good resume of what I've heard. And it seems like, from what the vice president said, I think it was about a week ago when it was at some sort of convention, he was very adamant that only the legal votes would be counted, and illegal votes are unconstitutional and therefore cannot be counted in that. So, and I think this sort of thing happened, I think the last time it happened was it 1813 or something? Bill, I'm sure you know. I think it was Thomas Jefferson was the vice president, and something happened, and he was the head of the Senate, and he ruled that certain things were not right, and it turned out that he had enough votes to become the president. I'm sorry if I've got the.
I know
I'm
that
sorry if
that
I got
did
that wrong.
happen, but I have not read up on it, and I'm not familiar with the details.
Right.
Bill, do you know anything more on that one? I don't either, incidentally.
Bill with a B or Bill with a P?
Bill with a P.
Papa.
Well, I have to admit, my recent 3D living has kept me away from the more constitutional legal aspects of this, but my understanding is that, yes, the president did call for everybody to come to Washington, D.C. on December 6th. And what it appears
January.
to be through the, sorry, what did I say? December?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm a time traveler. Yeah. January 6th as maybe a show of support, but also to give a message to all those congressmen and senators assembling on Capitol Hill that day to realize and remember that if they're going against what they know to be the truth, they have the popular, um, the people that have shown up in unprecedented numbers watching them and about what they're going to do. So I think there's that aspect of that. The second thing might be what Bill just said, in that there's going to be some kind of disclosure or an announcement by the president where, frankly, having 1 million people in Washington at one time to hear it would have a lot of impact. But according to the rule of law, this is the day at which everything gets officialized, and it's going to be up to Vice President Pence, which means that in this particular extraordinary circumstance, he has unusual power that someone in his position maybe has never had before. And he's a question mark to a lot of people, and is to me. So I do not know what a person in Vice President Pence's position will do when he sits down on that day with 1 million people or more outside the Capitol building or the Senate, wherever they meet. And he has to make that decision. Because it appears to me that what the president is doing, Trump, is that he is using every available aspect of the rule of law as written in the United States Constitution as he can to allow the Constitution to save itself in its hour of need. And at the same time, as he does this, people are being exposed to the absurdity of the fraud, the corruption, and the lengths to which these hollowed institutions are suddenly banding against themselves after 4 years of silence against President Trump. So people who are following this drama, not knowing if Biden or Trump is going to be the winner, they're watching for answers. And when it comes down to analysis, they're going to see that what the president did all along was follow the chain of command according to what the laws, as they have been traditionally written, have been followed. So they can't call him a dictator. They can't call him a tyrant. They can't call him Orange Man Bad, who's just a bully who lost the election. He's been actually following laws that have been put in place for a long time. If things ever did get military, it would be only because he has shown by going through every last intimate step that things were so corrupt that he had to invoke the Insurrection Act or anything military. I think he has several trump cards up his sleeve that we haven't talked about yet on tonight's chat, but I still think Patriots are in control, and the plan with a capital T and a capital P is still going according to plan. And I still think that President Trump will be sworn in, but I no longer think it might be January 20th. It might be as late as March 20th. It's going to be a very interesting beginning to 2021, but that's my current understanding on all of that. And I could be wrong, but that's just my current understanding.
Well, it will certainly be an event if a million Americans show up or more to witness something. And I'm of the impression, the gut feeling, that Donald Trump, the president, wants the people to witness something of great significance. And I think it'll be a bit more than just the Vice President Pence declaring that the whole thing is such a confusion and corruption that he'll go to that system where each state gets a single vote in the House of Congress. I think that he is calling the people together to see how powerful they are, the people are. And this is to be a signal to all those rhinos and Democrats and bureaucrats that are actually opposing Trump and trying to sweep him off to the side. When he can say, here are the people, we the people, I think that'll be really powerful. You guys agree? Or any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I do.
Absolutely agree. Yep.
He's
Yes.
up to something. He's up to something, and there is something about reminding people that the power is in their hands, not in the power of government. And he is up to he's up to something, yes, but it's part of the plan. And I hope you're right. It's a very interesting time taking it out to the very last moment, and everyone is on edge. It's crazy right now. It's like a tinderbox. But I still feel confident, as I'm sure you guys do, that in the end, we're going to have a president who had the gumption to stand up to this, and we're going to have it for 4 more years when real change can finally actually go forward.
Yeah, I agree that, I mean, I feel like I'm all wound up like a two-bob watch, and I guess everybody's feeling the same way, just so expectant. You just really you know there's something in the air, but you don't really know what it is. You've got an idea about what it is, but it's just something that you can't really put your finger on right now. And I think that overall, this whole last 4 years, since Q came on the scene and everything else, and before then, when there was the inauguration of President Trump, it's like everything has been focused towards teaching the people that they have the power and they have the say, and they need to take their power back. That's what it's all about, I think. And as you said, Phil, this whole this drawing the people together in DC on the 6th of January is all part of this, I think, so that they can see just how big they are. I know there's people, I've had a look on social media, and people are making up caravans of cars, to travel there. And unfortunately, some of the people in Washington have decided that they're going to close their hotels or close their restaurants or deny accommodation to these patriots that are going to rise to the call of their president. And so once again, it's an opportunity to sort out the wheat from the chaff. And this is why I think the elastic band has been stretched so tightly now. I mean, Trump's drawn everything out to the very last minute to flush all these cockroaches out. And this is, still ongoing. It's amazing that he's got the patience, but beware the patience. No, beware the anger of a patient man. That's the saying, isn't it? Beware the anger of a patient man.
Yeah, because it implies wisdom. And if it's true that he is following Sun Tzu, he's doing a remarkable job because he's going textbook example by that. And he is showing remarkable patience. But if you have the wisdom and you have the knowledge of having everything, like Q says, we have everything, you're able to use that to your advantage to know your enemy's weakness and draw them deeper and deeper into a trap that once so many of them are so far in and you have it all, there's a point at which you can draw the net up and you've got unassailable proof that you can show not only to the American public, but to the world, so that when his crazy claims are made, he can now finally back it up, not with evidence, but with proof. And I think that's what's going to be needed to make the American public understand why he did, or what the military did, and why it was necessary, because what was going to befall the American population and afterwards the world had to be stopped. And transparency is going to be needed at that point. And I think you're going to see a lot of that over the next few years once Trump is reinaugurated.
Well, if you think back, Q has said over and over and over again that you cannot show the people, you cannot tell the people, you have to show them. And I think the last 6 months, particularly, has been an educational process of showing the people, which will extend through this next week.
Yes.
So I agree with that, Bill. I've been looking at social media and I'm seeing lately a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry that I voted for Biden, but I voted for him because I didn't like the alternative. I didn't like the idea of having Trump there." But they're realizing now that they've made a tactical error and have backed the wrong horse. So I think a lot of people are starting to see a lot of things. And I was interested, I've started following another YouTube channel and it's called Monkey Works, WERX. And this comes from a guy called Monkey Works US. That's his channel, Monkey Works US, WERX US. And he is a guy who follows the airlines. He's watching the skies and following all the flight radar and things like that. And he can identify all the aircraft that are in the air and where they're going and what they're doing. And in his last video, which was today, he was saying that a lot of these planes that are in the air, they're military planes, are going to places like Iceland and the Canary Islands. And he's actually showing, by zooming in with Google Earth, the prisons that are there at these locations. So we haven't just got Gitmo that's going to be filled up, but we've got these other prisons that are happening that the United States apparently is running in Iceland and the Canary Islands and in Portugal and in other places. It's quite fascinating, and I just encourage anyone who's interested in that to take a look at the channel Monkey Works US.
Well, this won't show up on that radar presentation, but remember the 2 huge prison ships that went down to Guantanamo.
Mm.
Well, if there's a lot of arrests, they'll need a lot of places to place the people that are going to get arrested. It won't be just the top names, of course. There are so many that are involved. I don't know what the latest tally is, but the last time I heard, 180 sealed indictments were out there waiting to be served.
180,000, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking too, you know, the question has to be asked, where's Sally Yates? Where's Comey? Where's Clapper? Where's Brennan? Where are all these people? You don't hear of them.
Yeah, they haven't put anything out recently. Where's Schiff? That's a good one. Maybe Schiff has shipped off to the Sunset or to
the Canary
Guantanamo
Islands.
Bay or Canary Islands. Yeah.
There's
Well,
room.
they
There's rumors
call
about that.
Guantanamo Bay. They call it the spa. That's what the
The
White
spa.
Hats call it. The White Hats call it the spa.
Because compared to Iceland, it is a spa.
I guess it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you guys heard the rumors about Adam Schiff being arrested, and who else was it? Was it Pelosi? Bill? I can't remember.
Oh,
And
there are rumors on various people being arrested. Some probably were, but we'll see.
well, remember, you guys, that when Congress and Senate is in session, they cannot be tried for crimes. But when they're on break, as they are between the week between Christmas and New Year's, they can be. And so recently we've seen some tweets about Adam Schiff being apprehended at LAX, and I think something about Pelosi and uh, Schumer from New York suddenly finding out about this and making an emergency return to New York or something. I can't remember. But it makes you wonder, according to the rule of law, if a congressman or a senator cannot be arrested when Congress is quote unquote in session, then if they're not in session, as they are right now between Christmas and New Year's, that would be the quiet time in which such an action could take place. And I'm wondering if that's actually what's happening right now, and we'll find out soon enough, maybe on January 6th or soon after. Just a thought.
Yeah, very interesting thought, actually. Yes.
Oh, we have a week until January 6th, which, considering that back in the latter part of October, I was saying we have a week until November 3rd, and we've had 2 months since then. Maybe one more week will do it.
Who knows? I
Maybe.
mean, there's been some interesting stuff coming out with these hearings that they've been having about the election fraud, and it is election fraud. I don't care what Twitter says; nothing's been decided. And someone, I think his name. Oh, I can't think of his name now. He had a famous name, but he actually on air at the hearing hacked into the Georgia voting system through the internet. Proof.
Right.
I mean, if that's not proof,
Right.
what is? And so they have to virtually realise that Georgia has flipped. It has to. And I believe Georgia was the problem for Thomas Jefferson way back then when he made his ruling as vice president. It's like history repeating itself all over again.
Right. Right.
So these hearings are very interesting. I don't know whether you guys have been following them. I haven't. It's been too late at night for me. But yeah, have you been following them, Phil?
Well, I've been getting the clips of exactly what you just said, and I've been looking up, excuse me, the mainstream television to see if they're reporting him, and of course, it's crickets. There's no comment at all. It's all distraction headlines. But to those that are doubting the narrative and are starting to look for their own information, and they find channels like, the various alternative medias and the Twitter accounts that follow this, they're going to see that. And I did see how in a live hearing they proved that the Dominion systems are hackable, and that's pretty heavy duty to do in front of a live audience when you're having a hearing. But by now it's so overwhelming. And just yesterday I read a mainstream article that we all would see in the United States about President Trump's last-ditch desperate effort to get the presidency with unsubstantiated election fraud claims. They've been saying this now since November 3rd, and yet you and me and anyone who listens to this chat, they're doing their own research. They're finding this truth out for themselves. You've got Trump's own lawyers twittering all over the universe saying, we've got the proof, we're presenting it. And they can't sit there and make baseless claims like that as officers of the court without losing their jobs and their licensing. You just don't make claims like that unless you can back it up. I don't think these people around Trump are committing professional suicide just to make Trump look good. Rule number one for most lawyers is you never ask a question that you don't already have the answer to. And if you look at some of the recent Twitters by Lynn Wood, he's making extremely provocative accusations against Chief Justice Roberts about being a
Oh yeah.
pedophile, Epstein
Oh yeah.
Island. And you just don't sit there and say that in the public domain. You'd open yourself up to libel and slander, a bunch of things. And he's a lawyer, and yet he's doing this. And since one of his colleagues is Sidney Powell, who's famous for saying, I never make accusations and claims without having proof, makes you wonder, why is he being so provocative and so ballsy unless he already has some things, some trump cards up his sleeve. And he's doing this to make Chief Justice Roberts brick his knickers. And I think that's what's happening right now. I think someone is going to blink between now and January 6th. I hope it's President, Vice President-elect Biden, that he just concedes and says, yeah, you caught us. We made it all up. And then everything can end. But if it doesn't, it's going to go through this whole thing that everyone is fretting about. And it's going to be, if it is, a period in American history, at least in modern times, that none of us or the world has ever seen. And it'll be a watershed moment in human consciousness, and especially in the American psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
very interesting. I've just got up this tweet from actually it's a Parler thing, I think, from Lynn Wood. He says a couple of more questions for Chief Justice John Roberts. Number one, you are recorded discussing Justice Scalia's successor before date of his sudden death. How did you know Scalia was going to die? Number two, are you a member of any club or cabal requiring minor children as initiation fee?
Mm.
Ooh.
That's pretty heavy duty.
Putting it out there. Yeah.
Also, WikiLeaks released all the Clinton emails, and there's one that I found on Parler. I have not actually found this myself, so I can't vouch for it, but it's a screenshot of one that was sent on March the 27th, 2011, from HC to Huma Abedin. Huma, please bring the hammer and the toy I like to use to Comet tonight. Also, if you have time, swing by the office and grab my inhaler. Nothing gets my heart going like sacrifice night. HC.
Oh, God.
Ouch.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That was one of the things that was released, is it? Wow.
That's apparently one of the WikiLeaks Clinton emails
WikiLeaks.
that was released. Yeah. And people, there's lots of them, and people are going through them. I have not found that, but that's just what I found on social media. So, and it looks like a genuine screenshot.
I downloaded the whole thing. I just haven't had time to go through all the different because it's huge. But
Yeah.
it does mean that now it's there for the entire alternative community, or any researcher or journalist that chooses to go there. It's there. And because WikiLeaks has this record of never having been shown to put out false information, it makes you wonder, since Q has said on more than a number of occasions that Julian Assange was going to go back in the headlines again. And, recently they talked about a pardon for Assange. And maybe things got delayed here in the past week. I thought it would all come before Christmas. We thought a lot of things would happen on Christmas Eve last week, and it didn't happen, at least publicly. But it makes you wonder if President Trump is building momentum for a whole lot of explosive releases of information that might involve WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and the arrests that are going to shock the world, which I'm still curious about what that could be, as well as any disclosure of election fraud, which by now, I mean, we've talked about it on the chats the past month, is so enormous. How can the media sit there with a straight face and still say, this is baseless, Trump's desperate? I just love proof, because after they've sat there and said this all year long, and you come out with videos and documents and sworn testimonies and affidavits under oath, and you lay it on the public in direct contradiction to what the media is showing, the public's got to make a choice. Who do I believe? These guys under oath that are sweating bullets as they obviously tell their truth and they didn't want to be in the spotlight? Or do you listen to the talking head you've been watching on TV for 20 years? It's going to be really interesting as a psychological study, and this gets back to the consciousness shift that Bill often talks about, we all talk about, on how the collective is going to handle the revelation of truth that's counter to what we've always assumed to be true. It's really profound.
It really is. And also there's the whole question of, okay, what is the truth? Now, I just want to talk about something that I saw during the week that is actually related to this topic. And I don't know whether you guys saw it, but there was a they called it a deep fake Queen's message. And it was a video that Sorry?
I said I did hear of it. Yes, of her. Go on. I want to hear more.
It was Channel 4 in Britain made this deep fake Christmas message from the Queen.
She's a great dancer.
That's right. And it looked really, really real. And they also made a video of how they made the video and said exactly what they did using green screens and all sorts of, technology to do what they did, which I thought was, first of all, very entertaining. And I thought, well, hang on, why are they doing this really? And really what they were doing was saying to everybody, look, it's really easy to make a video of a very important person saying certain things, and it's not really true. And I thought, oh, yes. One way of protecting these very important people when they are shown in certain videos doing certain naughty things is to say, oh, but that's easy. You can always do deep fake for that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's called getting ahead of the narrative.
Exactly.
It is that. But remember, there are people, and Janine has put this out on her program, Tarot by Janine, that she has picked up over and over again that the senior royals are either already dead or they've already been picked up and taken somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, if you apply it to this fake video, it is to keep people believing that the royals are still in power so that they can carry on, they being the Dark Cabal, using these figureheads to, I don't know, justify what they're doing is correct here, but on some level they're still using them because they need the people to still believe these ones are still around, like the Queen, like Philip, like Charles. And there's even speculation that even Andrew is gone, as well as Harry and his wife. What's her name again?
Meghan Markle.
Markle, that's right. So that's putting a little spin to this thing too. I mean, yes, I've heard about the video. How absurd for the Queen, who's always presented herself so regally, to start dancing. Has she ever done that in her 93 years of life, or however old she is, in the public?
And I really can't believe that Philip is still around, unless he's on life support somewhere or in, cryo or something, because he's just, he's just so old and decrepit. And even with all the intensive care that these people get, I can't imagine that he's still actually around.
No,
So, yeah,
I
it's a
agree.
very interesting thing. And at the end of the day, it probably doesn't really matter to us as individuals. I mean, we've all got our individual lives to lead and our own belief systems to nurture and cultivate. But it's all part of the deception. And that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at the revealing
Unveiling
of
deception.
the unveiling of the deception, the dance of the 7 surplus army blankets.
The
Now,
what?
I'd heard.
The
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. What?
you
Yeah,
got to
let's hear
repeat
that.
that one, Callista.
Oh, that's revealing my age. I'm actually quoting from the Goon show from years and years ago, when you've heard of the dance of the 7 veils, which is the
Yeah,
dance
yeah.
of the 7 veils, but this was the dance of the 7 surplus army blankets, and I think that's probably more relevant today.
Okay. Right. Yeah, the Goonie show. Yeah, okay. I've never heard that one though. Interesting.
What's really interesting to me is the larger question of what you just mentioned. You talk about the crown and its influence. You talk about the Vatican and its influence, or the cabal and the unseen hand and its influence. But when you talk about, at least in this case, the United States and what's going on with the whole election and the rule of law, it really only deals with what jurisdiction that country has or that body has under its authority. So if Trump is trying to clean up America and drain the swamp, as we've talked about so many times, where does Trump's influence come into the negating of the British Crown or the Vatican, if at all, when, as a sovereign nation and sovereign body, each of these 3 institutions are separate from one another? In other words, can Trump's rise to influence somehow negate the Queen's or the Crown's influence by getting her maybe not uh, executed, but what did you say, neutralized or effectively put out of power? Or the same for the Vatican, which considers itself the vicar of Christ. Because there's a lot of rumor going around about the influence that Trump's influence has on other world bodies of power and the deep state. And it's very compelling, but at the same time, we know so little that I'm very curious, because I'm not an expert on international law and some of the interplay that sovereign bodies have with each other, where that comes into play. Because we've seen videos by Charlie Freak, for example, that one video that everyone talks about, where Trump went around the world soon after he was elected, and all these ceremonies were done that are never done for foreigners, that indicated that on some level they were agreeing with Trump or aligning with Trump, or agreeing that there had been a power shift. And a lot of people talk about how Trump, when he went to England, had the audacity to walk in front of the Queen. And this is not done in protocol. And yet, when you look at the Queen, she had no problem with it because she was following protocol. I just don't know, when we talk about the Queen being, or the royal family being neutralized in terms of its power, or any other sovereign body around the world, how Trump might be effective in that when he really only has authority and jurisdiction over his own purview.
Remember that these people, these ones in authority, know things. And I think that they know that Donald Trump is actually the reincarnation of the Comte de Saint-Germain. So he has the authority over Nasara, right? Or Jessara, whatever you want to call it. They know that the money they've been getting through the corporations, and I'm talking about the Corporation of Australia, I'm talking about the Corporation of the United States. Those corporations and any other corporations, which used to be governments, but now they're corporations, have been funneling money to the Vatican through the City of London. So your taxes have been going from the IRA, sorry, Inland Revenue or whatever, from there, yeah, IRA, from there to Washington, and from Washington it gets funneled straight to the City of London, and from the City of London it gets funneled to the Vatican. And that is because the Crown of London, the Crown of Britain, always bows to the Pope. The only person you will see bowing, the only person you will see Queen Elizabeth bowing to is the Pope. So
Right.
all that money chain is going to come to an end with Nasara. And they know that Trump's the one to bring it in. They know that their time's over and done with.
Yeah.
They know this. And so Trump's bringing in this new system. And they know they either fall in line with Trump or they get lost forever in the mud. That's my theory anyway. Take it or leave it.
Right.
But how did Trump get that authority over the Vatican and over the Queen is my question, because I don't understand how that works. I'm saying it probably is true. Obviously, we're looking at people who look at this and say, look what's happening, look what's happening. But why would they just capitulate? How does someone that everyone despises, in the case of President Trump, suddenly get some kind of authority over the Crown and the Vatican, which have had an historical control monopoly over the Western hemisphere, the Western culture since the 1200s?
Because he's Count Germain.
Well, there's that, Count Germain, and that would be a significant factor. But if you remember, Phil, when Trump did his first trip and he went to Saudi Arabia, he went to Israel and he went to Rome. And in each of those places, he had the documents, piles and piles and piles of proof, which he presented to them all and said, here it is. I can put it out and it'll bring you down, or you can play the game. And each of those three capitulated. A year and a half later, or whenever it was, he went to England. He did the same to the Queen. And again, she capitulated. That's why he walked in front of her. He did not bend the knee to the Queen. Barack Obama did, but Donald Trump never did. So these are the kind of hidden facts.
Private contract. He offered, they accepted. It was an agreement between them. I get it. That would make sense.
No, it wasn't a private contract. It was him showing papers. It was him showing documentation of proof of who he really is. And this is not just for America. Donald Trump is for the whole world, not just for America.
I agree.
That's an interesting spin. So it wasn't necessarily just the proof of what these people have done and their corruption. It was also establishing who he was. That's an interesting spin on it.
Well, that's what I think anyway. I don't know. I haven't seen any proof of that or anything, but that's just what I think.
That's a question for cosmic awareness. Maybe the next group, public. Yeah, that's obvious, because that's very compelling. And if that were the case, it would explain a lot, wouldn't it, Callista?
Exactly. And if you look at the history of the Count Germain, who is now also known as Saint Germain, because he was one of the saints during the Messianic millennia, he started this whole thing of this monetary system 300 years ago. And so it's come down through the generations. And I believe when I look at Donald Trump, when I look at the way he lives, the way he conducts himself, the way he looks, his countenance is golden. And so I believe that he is actually an incarnation or a reincarnation or a continuation of Count Germain, also known as Saint Germain. But that's just the impression I got when I was looking at the history of it, the history of Nasara Jasara. And
Interesting
you can
speculation.
find it there. You can find it, wherever. But it is very, very interesting.
Interesting speculation. And of course, I've heard other personages have included Louis XIV, I think, as well.
Yes.
If one accepts that there is something to reincarnation, which we all do accept, then all of these persons that he may have been in the past, Saint Germain, Louis XIV, there was another one I've heard,
King.
but
you see, Louis XIV was the Sun King, and in a lot of memes, you see Donald Trump's face depicted as the sun, and so when you're looking at all this symbology around Donald Trump, it's very, very intriguing, to say the very least, and there's more than just coincidence there, I think. And when you look at him as Louis XIV, he definitely was Louis XIV. I mean, gold and marble everywhere. And look at, Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago, gold and marble. And it's this continuation of a certain energy that's been coming through. It's really intriguing, fascinating to look at.
Absolutely. And it does involve expanding the mind a bit, going outside of the box a bit to consider that we may be, and this ties up again into my concept of us as spiritual creator beings, that we have histories of our own personal lifetimes that are significant to each and every one of us. And if you find that and work at, past life regression or other meditations where you travel back, all of this can give us a much broader conceptualization of who we might be. You guys know how cosmic awareness speaks of us being creator spirit beings. And what if that is part of the revelation of the truth? We go back to what I was talking about earlier. The truth that gets us vibrating, the truth that grabs our guts, the truth that makes us go, take in our breath. Of course, yes. And I think that's part of the revelation. That's part of the new doctrines that are coming about who and what we really are, which may, again, make it easier for us to adopt this and recognize this in the long run. I just wanted to throw that one in for you guys. But Donald Trump, he's a character, a historical character. So why not look at
he's also a character. Yeah. I've never seen a politician make me laugh as hard as Donald Trump. Yeah. He catches me off guard so many times in interviews where he'll just say something and you don't expect it. And the next thing you're laughing your head off. And he is a non-politician's politician. He's it's a breath of fresh air, at least in terms of what Americans have been used to. And they've been used to slick talking politicians that all sound the same when they're at a podium. And you never got that with President Trump. And it seems, and I told this today to someone else, it seems that the more he comes under attack, the stronger he becomes. It's like if he is Saint Germain, he certainly would be the alchemist to be able to take all the brunt negativity thrown at him and transmute it into power that he then can use for the greater good. So I've not heard that before, that he could be the Count Saint Germain. But if he were, that would be very plausible. And his activity as a president would be very consistent with that.
What do you think, Bill? We haven't heard from you for a few minutes here.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon right now, but I won't rule it out entirely. That's strategy, and I'm more focused on the tactics of Trump putting all of the crooks in jail.
Right, right. There's still the job ahead, isn't there, Bill? He might have been these historical characters, but he still has the job of dealing with the swamp. And it's amazing to me, in all of this, you haven't seen him jumping up and down and losing it, chasing his tail around, in circles. He's been calm and collected. It's like he already knows what's coming. He's already seen that. And we've speculated on this before, where we've said, what if he has a way of viewing the future? And we know there's the looking glass technology and perhaps other ways to do this. But I do feel, and you have said this, Bill, a few times, that if the future is already seen the past and knows what comes of it, and he knows from the future what the present is about, why should he get all uptight if he knows that it's all going to work out?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
nothing can
that's
stop.
your doctrine. You've spoken of this, Bill. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Trump knows exactly what he's doing. I think he knows what the outcome is going to be. He knows how to get there, and he's not worried about it.
Yeah, I agree.
He's still working for the people. He's in his final 3 weeks supposedly, and he's still doing things that would only make sense if you were a president who knew that the placements and activities that you were doing now after the election that you supposedly lost would only make sense if you knew you were going to be in power for the next 4 years. So I think Q is right. We're watching a movie. Nothing can stop what is coming. God wins. And sometimes you have to show the people, not tell them. And we're about to be shown, all of us, even those that consider ourselves awake and aware. And despite the fact that most of us would like to forget that 2020 ever happened, it seems to be a necessary part of the awakening that we experienced it collectively so that we can experience the great awakening collectively as well and be in a better position to openly allow it to manifest itself once the greater population is made aware of all of the things that we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the story of, if you give a man a fish, you give him a meal for the day, but if you teach him how to fish, he can eat, himself all the time. And so you're making people responsible and autonomous, and that's what he's doing. If it was just about him, he wouldn't be going to all this trouble, but it's not. It's a historical movement, so that down the track, people will understand what happened, so it won't happen again. And to do that, people have to be shown and not told. So this has been. He's actually come here as a mentor, and I say that deliberately. He has come here as a mentor. That's what I think.
Possibly. Or at least, at the very least, he's come here to show us a way forward out of the darkness, out of the swamp, so that others such as ourselves and awareness has discussed this. We have discussed this. What if we are here also at this time to help the many who are about to wake up, who are going to need guidance? I don't think that Donald Trump all by himself will be the total mentor, but he will definitely assist, I think, in that awakening process that allows those of us who are here already to assist in the awakening program or the awakening, the great awakening. What if that's all part of the big plan?
I wasn't suggesting that Donald Trump alone is the mentor. The whole situation that he's put, into play this
Yes.
whole, 4D chess, 5D chess, whatever, has really brought out a lot of people and encouraged a lot of people to do research and learn.
Yes.
It's brought people away from suicide, drugs, you name it, because they've had a reason to be here and a reason for their existence. It wasn't all doom and gloom, as it turns out. Hey, something's happening. We've got a movement happening here. And so this
Right.
is what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that we're on the cusp of something really quite interesting, and it behoves each one of us to be able to step back and put aside our own particular pre-existing thoughts and perhaps programming, and just look at it all from a point of view of the 40,000 foot view, where you're just looking at everything that's happening and trying to make sense of everything and being able to see what's really happening.
Exactly. And let's also remember that this shift in consciousness we've been speaking about for years is underway right now, and that involves a acceleration in our vibration and our frequencies. And I do believe that the dark ones are not shifting that way, so they will not be able to advance into that bright new future that lies directly ahead of us, because the frequency of spirit is entering into the game, has been involved, as we've discussed before, certainly since 2012, when December 21st, the Ascension event happened, and I think has been increasing year by year by year. And we've just experienced the 8th anniversary of that event, and we're in a 9th cycle now, which is all about completion, bringing it all home, bringing it all together. So that's why I do believe that we may be able to advance very quickly in the next few months and next few years, much quicker than that slow, drawn-out process that you would think happens, because it's how it was introduced in the first place, a long, drawn-out, continual program of a erosion of humans' ability to understand and perceive and know the truth. And that is what is about to end, is ending, has ended. So,
You're here.
That is the background to all of the current events that are happening. If you look at it from that perspective, the vibrational rate of the human race is increasing. The cabal does not have that capability to increase. So one way or another, they're going to be out of the picture. But what Trump is doing is he's accelerating that and making it happen sooner in the best possible way. And I am all in favor of that.
Given what you just said, Bill, yes, the cabal's only chance, as they perceive it and think of it, is to keep humanity locked down. Now, doesn't that strike a bell to the actual situation of the COVID and everything?
Sure.
The whole fear mongering, the collapsing of human traditions, like gathering at Christmas with family, all of this. This is the only thing they have left. And this is why they're playing it so hard. I heard today that Fauci may be indicted, may be arrested. Now, if someone like him is exposed and the lie that is COVID is exposed, wow. People might actually say, I'm not going to wear this damn mask anymore. People might actually say, I'm going to hug.
Bring it on.
That?
Bring it on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that masks may be a thing of the past by mid-February.
Let's hope so.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who are becoming increasingly vociferous here in California that if they see someone walk by without a mask, which has happened to me now, they'll sit there from behind their mask and say, "Where's your mask?" "Well, I'm outside. There's a breeze. Why do I need a mask? There's no law." But there's people who are so convinced that social distancing and a mask wearing is necessary now to survive. And I don't watch TV. I'm in a place where I don't have TV. I get all my news through alternative means, alternative press. But when I do turn on the TV to see the national news broadcasts, I can understand why people say those things, because every news channel says exactly the same narrative every day, and their websites, which I do go to, even though I don't have TV, I'll go to MSNBC, CNN, just to see what they're saying. And if you've grown up with those broadcasts and you hear the same thing no matter what channel, it becomes accepted as your truth. And of course they would be. And so I can't hold it against them. They want to live. They want the same things that I do. They want to live in peace. They want health. They want harmony. But they've been given a narrative that says if you don't do these things, your peace and harmony and health and safety are going to come, under threat. And the people who aren't doing it are being inconsiderate to you. And you're starting to see that. And that's who is really dividing and conquering the nation, at least in the US, but mainstream media around the world, is that kind of control of the narrative that keeps people pitted against each other. And so we can't make up and realize that we have a common enemy, regardless of what pole, what duality side that we're embracing. And I'm really hoping that in 2021, disclosures will be made of the type that will allow people to see how they've been played, not just in the US, but around the world, so that we can realize we all had a common enemy and just realize we got duped. Let's kiss and make up. And now let's unite so that we can drain the suppression mode that has been put on this planet for thousands of years.
I
Did they
would
wear
su-
masks? Sorry, did
I
they
would
wear
su-
masks?
Go ahead, Callista.
I'm just being a bit flippant here. I'm just wondering if they wear masks while they're on television giving their little spiels.
Well, you have seen some videos where as soon as they think they're off camera, they pull the mask off.
That's right.
But what I was going to say is that we are rapidly approaching a turning point. And I do think it's necessary that a part of this turning point will be unplugging the mainstream media. And that will make a major difference.
They'll have to just
Well,
go
when that
down.
goes, sorry, Callista,
They'll have to
you
go.
go for it.
Yeah, they will just evaporate, because the six companies or entities that are behind these mainstream media outlets will just collapse within themselves. I think they'll just, sort of implode, because they're not going to have any money, and they won't have any authority, and they'll be proved to be wrong. They should be sued or something.
Oh, they should have their directors and these people, board of directors, CEOs, arrested and give them the sunshine tour of Guantanamo Bay.
They
But
may
the
be
point is,
sued,
what?
or they may also be ruled to be illegal agents of foreign governments.
That too. But you watch. The first thing they'll do is they'll backtrack. They'll claim, "Oh, we didn't know because we got fed the wrong information from people like Biden, Pelosi, Clinton."
That's bullshit, because a journalist has to vet their sources and information before they go public with it. That's a journalistic, you have to do that. It's interesting how they have different standards between Biden and Trump. But yes, I agree with you. That's what they're going to say to cover their butts.
But there aren't There aren't any real journalists left in mainstream now. They're
Exactly.
just not. They're just paid lackeys, and this is the same with rhinos. The rhinos that are in government they're promised millions and millions of dollars to get Donald Trump out of power. Millions. And it's the same with these people that are on, like Anderson Cooper, paid $10 million a year to lie. Now, this is very, in America especially, it's all about money. And if you're promised all this amount of money, well, people are then,
You're
they
somebody.
think that's right. Yes, for some reason. Yeah. I mean, truth doesn't matter where money's concerned with some people. So this is the way it is. Hey guys, I just have to let you know we've been going for nearly 3 hours.
What?
No, hang on, 2 hours.
2 hours.
Okay. 2 hours, sorry, yeah, 2. So yeah, just to let you know how the time's going. 2 hours, not 3. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I was feeling it a moment ago anyway that maybe it's time to bring it to a completion, because we could go on another hour easily. There's still lots of stuff we haven't even touched at all that is prevalent to these times. But I think the most important thing that I would like to say in terms of what we're going through, be these the end times or just the end days of this year, it has been one hell of a year. So much has happened. So much that we thought could never happen has happened. So why can't we take that next step and say, okay, I never expected them to lock down cities and counties and states and countries and the whole bloody world. So why couldn't it be possible that what's coming is going to reverse it all, dissipate it all, because it's the truth that's coming, and the truth shall set us free. How often have we heard that? But what if that is the truth of it? What if these are the times we've been waiting for, so that we could be part of the future that is burning bright right in front of us? The dawn is there. It's coming. And here we are. So let's make the best of it. Let's celebrate and dance wildly and laugh and sing and have a good time, because we sure the hell had a hard time during the year, and it's been one of the most important years ever in humanity's history, as far as I'm concerned, even with all the difficulties and challenges.
Here.
Roger that.
Speech. Yeah, it's been a very interesting year, because it's one that so many people cuss and swear about, but yet if you think about it, it was integral to embedding into the human experience collectively, so that it's never forgotten, that it is registered in human consciousness as the opportunity it always represented to all of us. You could get negative and say, this is BS, I'm checking out, I'm going radical. Or you could sit there from a more, like you said, Callista, a 40,000 foot perspective, and realize that what transpired simply is. It's just isness. And we can look at it negatively or positively, or look at it from the opportunity, from observer consciousness, on the growth opportunity that all of humanity is being offered to rise to the occasion of itself. And for 2020, for me, I told this to someone today earlier, it has been a study in my own humility, because I realized how much I still have to grow, and how much I am still repeating. What's the word? Will, cosmic awareness calls me out all the time. I'm still buying into those paradigms that have been ingrained into society, that we all have from birth. And part of this year of revelation and unfortunate disclosure is that we, if we face our own music, have the strength to look at ourselves for those parts of ourselves that we're still buying into, the false illusion that are habitual and that prevent us from rising to a higher frequency to take advantage of where we're being asked to go right now. And it's not easy. It's a lot of denial and pain and questioning and who am I and the whole thing. And for me, that this year has been a year of humility, of realizing where I thought I was not where I've actually realized in my own experience. And I expect that will happen in 2021, but it's a process, it's ongoing, but it's necessary for those of us that realize that where we're being asked to go as a collective has to be in frequency alignment to where, in fact, everything is going right now. And it has to let go all of the narrative that we're being asked to buy into with the mask and the falsehoods and the cabal and all of that. We're at the edge of disclosure, and we have to somehow integrate it in ourselves and not lose ourselves in the process and realize we were duped, and we can cultivate enough self-love to give us the inertia to climb above it and become the new humans that we're all being asked to become. That's all I want to say.
To overcome the inertia, right? To overcome the inertia that keeps us locked down.
Yes. Yeah, if I wasn't clear, exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting. What is
Bill,
part of all of
that? Sorry, Will, I'm just aware that Bill hasn't had a chance to chime in with anything in the last few minutes, so I'm just asking him if he has something he wanted to add to that.
No, I'm pretty well happy with what's been said. I will make one little note, though. I worked as a reporter photographer for Channel 6 in Corpus Christi before I went in the Air Force. And when I got out of the Air Force, I worked in the same job for Channel 10, also in Corpus Christi. And much more recently, I wrote a column for a local newspaper, a weekly column on local political events. And I fancy myself as kind of a part-time journalist. Of course, I send out the Light Forum newsletter every week, too, and that's more of the same. But I have a real problem with the so-called journalists in the mainstream media because they're not. Enough said.
You know, there used to be a time when they had news departments, and then there was a deliberate movement, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years ago, where they shifted news departments into the entertainment departments. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, they've treated the news as entertainment. And how relevant are journalists in entertainment? Well, that's maybe what they become, entertainers, false prescribers of the news. So maybe that has something to do with what's happened to our journalists.
Well, I look forward to the day that the major media is just simply unplugged for whatever legal basis.
I think it's coming.
Yeah.
This year. Same with social media.
Maybe January 7th.
Yeah, or thereabouts.
Yes.
But in the meantime, perhaps we just need to wish everybody a really great 2021.
Yes.
And thank everybody for supporting us during our chats during the year. Our humble offerings are sometimes well received and sometimes not so, but that's okay. That's just us. We're just being us and just putting forward what we feel is worth discussing. I really enjoy these chats. So thank you guys for being who you are and being who you are through the year. And so yeah, I'll just, I think I'd like to just finish on that if there's no further discussion.
I'm fine with that. Just want
Happy-
to say Happy New Year, everyone. Have a great 2021.
Happy New Year, and we have a much better year to look forward to.
Totally. We can make 2021 whatever we wish to hold it to be, and I think people are awake and aware enough to realize that they don't have to be a white hat in the military around the world to affect change. They can go within their own heart and create the world from a creator being status that we're all learning to come into our own right now. So I agree. Happy 2021 for everybody. And let's make it happen. Let's make the world we wish to create become manifest.
May it be everything you dream it to be.
Aho.
Aho.
Lots of love to you all. Bye-bye now. See you next year.
Bye, you guys.
Bye
Bye, you
bye.
guys.
Bye, everyone. For now.